What's poppin', y'all? Since Yachty's been messing with Drake and kind of been having the comeback of his life in the past year and a half or so, he decided to start, some would say bumping his gums, but putting his opinion out there. And the thing that he recently said in an interview is, quote, "Hip-hop is in a terrible place. The state of hip-hop right now is a lot of imitation. It's a lot of quick, low-quality music being put out. It's a lot less risk-taking. It's a lot less originality. People are too safe now. Everyone is so safe. I'd rather take the risk than take the L," which is kind of odd because sometimes catching the L is taking the risk, but I think he's saying taking the L would be just fitting into what everyone else is doing. And a lot of people had stuff to say about Lil Yachty with this, which we'll get into his responses on this, which I don't think it was a good look for him to respond, but I understand his frustration. But first, coming into this, people are saying, oh, you're saying this when you came out in 2016 like this. Who was making music like Lil Yachty he really came in 2015, but in 2015, 2016, like Minnesota, One Night, you could say that was trash, right? That style of music. That's completely understandable of a take. Some people thought it was garbage. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was garbage. It was kind of like a meme, a little bit of a joke. It was almost like parodying. But this guy came in with nursery rhymes for raps. Let's keep it a buck. He came in looking like he could have been on a Simpsons episode. Not a Simpsons episode. He came in looking like he could have been on a Sesame Street episode, teaching kids about one night in Minnesota and how cold it gets. And so the fact that people are saying, oh, he came in sounding like everybody else, that's complete cap. I think people are just grouping him into the way that he looked and saying he sounded like everybody else, which are two completely different things. Sure, he may have looked like other, quote, SoundCloud rappers and they got put into the same box, but he wasn't making music like them. He wasn't making music like Lil Uzi Vert. He wasn't making music like, that Nestle dude kind of did have a similar style, but not really. But you just look at other artists that he supposedly looked like. Like, for example, these people came later, but Lil Pump, Smoke Perp, he didn't sound anything like these people. Yachty had an original sound coming in, and that's what a lot of people were criticizing him for between, I would say, 2019, 2020. They were like, yo, go back to the stuff that we loved you for, and he had left that behind. So I don't think that's a fair criticism to make. Now, granted, him talking about the state of hip-hop when he was kind of clowning it back then, that I can understand where people are coming from. Like, for example, Dom is Live put out a tweet saying something along the lines of, yes, he quoted it. He quoted what Yachty said, and he put out something about, I agree with Lil Yachty, but he's turned into the old head that he was hating on in 2016 that told him his music was trash. The past 2 years, he's been trying his best to rewrite history, hoping people will see him as Kanye or something. And then he followed it up by saying, this is why I can't take Yachty serious. In 2016, he came into the game and called Tupac and Biggie overrated, and he prided himself on creating music with no substance. It was all about hype and fun. He dissed people like J. Cole and Russ for having lyrics and having substance, but now he's trying to stand with those people while attempting to rewrite history and erase our minds with the Men in Black pen. He wants us to believe he's some music aficionado with substance like Kanye. I don't know why he's making a Kanye comparison. I would like to know a little bit more about that. But I kind of see where he's coming from, although I disagree a bit. I think Yachty just matured. Keep in mind, Yachty was, 18 when he came into the game? Which, some people came in younger at 16, 17. But the amount of hate that he got was, I'm impressed that he was able to bear that much hate. Because, for example, Lil Pump and Smoke Perp, they didn't get as much hate because Yachty came first and old heads didn't pay attention to them. So the demographic that was going to hate on them didn't even really look at what they were doing. They're just like, oh, those guys are over there, whatever. But the old heads focused on Yachty. Joe Budden went in on Yachty. So old heads and the young generation were looking at Yachty. Younger generation kind of messed with him. But he was the punchline for trash rap for such a long time. So he was able to endure that, and I think he's, at this point, just changed a lot. He developed his music. His music has changed. He learned how to rap, and he kind of, I wouldn't say he had a chip on his shoulder in a negative way because he wasn't demonstrating it the same way that Russ does, but he was putting it out there like, hey guys, I learned how to rap now. Check me out. Put some respect on my name. And they did, and people came around. So I wouldn't say I think Yachty's actually frustrated with the state as a whole. I don't think he's talking about new up-and-comers, which are two different things. Yachty was an up-and-comer, he was getting hate. I think Yachty is talking about mainstream successful artists sounding the same. which to a degree is pretty true. I don't think Yachty demonstrates as much of an ego as Dom is Live is putting out there right now, but I could see why it could be interpreted that way. He doesn't demonstrate it, but I do see hints of it here and there, because one of the most recent things that Yachty put out is he responded to this stuff. Like, someone quoted that quote that Yachty put out in that interview and said, "You just signed 4 female visas and you imitate Earl when he raps over Alchemist beats, dude." And then Yachty says, "I signed 1 girl and I don't imitate Earl. You do just be talking, bro. You people who hide behind pop culture pictures just be saying anything for likes and retweets. People act like the world is going to trash when a dude gives his opinion." And I agree with Yachty here, and this is why I think this one triggered him. Keep in mind, this person didn't at Yachty. This person didn't quote Yachty. Nothing. Yeah, this had to come up either when Yachty was looking at the replies to the tweets or someone sent it to him. But I think it frustrated him because this is one of those tweets that gets a ton of engagement. And then you're Yachty and you're looking at it like, yo, this isn't even true. So you're frustrated. You're like, yo, this isn't even accurate. But it's a narrative that's spreading like crazy and a bunch of people are going to believe it now, even though it's objectively false. Like, he doesn't sound like Earl under any circumstance. But when you reply to stuff like this, that's when people, they just pile on to you. And then some other person linked his own music and he decided to fry him. And he said, yeah, and this sucks. Like, bruh, you're never going to make it, which is, it's kind of cold. It's also kind of giving him promo. Did I listen to the guy's song? No, absolutely not. But yeah, Yachty continues. And then he goes on to say, "You people will tweet something negative about me to get all them likes just to post that weak SoundCloud link under it, and nobody clicks that stuff." And it's like he's kind of getting into a fight with Twitter trolls, which you're never going to win. And I think there's this level of frustration that Yachty is experiencing right now that people like Party Next Door have experienced, in the sense that, hey, I'm a part, and Academics talked about this briefly when he said Yachty told him, like, yo, if people only knew how much stuff I've been involved with that they love, this and that, but you got to chalk that one up. That's when you decide to play that role, you're not going to get public credit, and you're especially either you're going to get ignored, best case, and people aren't even going to know who you are, which is what a lot of these writers and kind of like people that lay out reference tracks are. Or if you were like Yachty and I guess your reputation wasn't that great or that admired, I would say, then they're not going to show you some more admiration for stuff that they don't even know you were a part of. Like, he got a bunch of credit for the Act Up thing. People always bring that up. But I guess some of the stuff he just can't share. So I think for him, he's just living in this frustration where it's like, man, these people talking, the same people that are hating on me are talking about this music that I was a part of, that I helped curate or whatever role he had involved with it. And I can see the frustrations, kind of like when Party Next Door is like, yo, I'm writing hits, smash hits. I'm giving people songs that are going #1. And then my music is just not hitting like that. And it's not because of my music, because I'm giving people my music and they do better with it than I do. So it's another element. And this is tough. I think Yachty's just going to have to get used to it. Circling back to the main point, which is hip hop, even Yachty, right? He started off pretty damn original. And then even now with this album that I didn't even really enjoy, which people keep giving me crap about, like, yo, let me have my opinion. Well, no, don't let me anything. I'm going to take my opinion and I'm going to have it. But I give him credit. That was something very original that he did in the realm of hip hop. It was a risk that he took. Other guys aren't taking risks. That's pretty much just it. Especially a lot of street rappers, these are the last people to take risks. I mean, Lil Baby has done it here and there. Gunna, I wouldn't say is too much of a street rapper, but he's somewhat done it. But yeah, these guys aren't taking risks. And I think Yachty is the perfect person to address this message. He came back and got a bunch of, not commercially, but he came back and got a bunch of widespread respect for taking a big risk. Yachty's not dropping music all the time. He takes his time to curate when he's going to drop. I think the last time he dropped was, I think it was in the beginning of this year. He hasn't dropped much at all after that. He dropped that song with J. Cole, which I like J. Cole's part. Not so much Yachty. I didn't like him too much on it. But he's the perfect person to deliver this because he's went through all of that. So I think people are giving him a lot of flack. I think they need to cut him some slack here. Now, I will say that I understand the perspective of someone who's like, man, you were saying old heads this and that, and you were kind of clowning the OGs, and now you're coming back and you're with Cole, and now you're talking about lyrics, and now you're talking about the state of hip hop when you said back then that you didn't even care about competing and, you know, we're just here to make money and everyone can do their own thing. I can see some people saying, yo, he didn't change. He's still that same person. But we don't really know. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think he genuinely changed. I think that experience scarred him, how much hate he got. which is understandable at that age, and you're just getting into the game and you're like, yo, is my career over already when I just got in here? And he's been able to hold on to things. And, there have been peaks and troughs, but right now I would say from a respect standpoint, from a people liking him standpoint, and from industry connection standpoint, even celebrity standpoint, Yachty's at the highest he's ever been. So clearly he's someone that is valid in talking about a topic like this. But let me know what y'all think about it in the comments. Feel free to roast Yachty. I don't got no affiliation to him, but also feel free to show him love. I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Peace.